I feel like we're also like so conditioned to be like thinking about ourselves and just those who are close to us that we feel that the other is not as important because we don't have that connection to them and we don't know them.
Yeah.
So we take that separation.
Yeah. And we don't know them. And I guess that's the same with farmed animals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you don't see a farm animal and then you hear like, oh, like someone slaughtered a cow, you're like, well, that's what happens.
It barely feels real, I guess. You don't really
Exactly.
imagine it. Yeah.
I guess also when there's that distance between you, you're not really seeing it as much, then you also have like this disconnect because you don't, same with like, I guess like people suffering in different countries, you don't really see it and people don't care because they're like, well, it's not affecting me at home.
Yes.
So I can take a step back and choose to remain ignorant to those situations. So I guess it works the same with animals in that sense. If you can choose to remain ignorant when there is this separation, this distance between you two. I think also there's this lack of transparency when you have these kind of situations. Like, I highly doubt people who have like these slaughterhouses are telling you, we lock them up. They're gonna be like, no, they're happy, they're free, they're lovely, they're having the best time, and then they die sweetly. When we know that's not the truth. But also there's lack of transparency makes us feel more comfortable in believing that, okay, then it's fine.
Like I said, I'm not trying to change your mind on anything, but it'd be good at the start, I think, to get your opinion on a scale of 0 to 10. How in favor are you of a shift in society towards veganism?
Veganism, okay.
Yeah.
Like a 6.
6.
Yeah.
Okay. Why 6 and not 0?
Not 0 because mainly the environmental aspect of it all. Because it's whole like mass farming, these kind of things, and like the way they treat the animals in those farms, especially in the U.S. and stuff, like at dairy farms and like meat houses, slaughterhouses, it's quite savage. So not a 0, not a 10 because I do eat meat, and I think that's also culturally, just because I'm Arab, so I grew up eating lots of meat, and my dad's basically like, if there's no meat in a meal, it's not a meal. So there's that. So.
When you say that you like the savage things that are happening on factory farms and slaughterhouses, like what in particular have you seen that troubles you?
I've seen them stuff like a bunch of animals in small like stables, I guess you'd call them.
Yeah, like small areas.
Small areas. They're barely fed half the time, or they're just left to eat each other at some points when they just die, and then they have the sick animals and they're just eating that. So it's not really healthy in that way, and also it's kind of savage if you think about it, like just stuffing creatures in a small space, no light, no access to it's not free range. They're like not allowed to walk out. They're just trapped there.
Right.
So there's that.
You think they're suffering?
Yeah, for sure. And also they don't really, a lot of them don't really hide the slaughter from the other animals, so they're doing it in front of the other animals, and that traumatizes them there as well. So that also affects mental and also like the physical, like the build-up of like the animals themselves. So
You think the animals are aware of like what's happening often when they're in slaughterhouses?
Oh, for sure. They can sense it.
Yeah.
If they can sense earthquakes and tsunamis and stuff, they can sense when something bad's going to happen to them. So yeah.
I'm wondering if you've ever had a personal connection with an animal yourself, like a pet or...
Yeah, I have dogs, I have horses, I've had camels.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Very random. But yeah, so I'm like, I grew up, my dad has a farm as well, so I'm very used to like feeding the animals, taking care of them and all that kind of stuff, exercising horses, that kind of stuff. So I'm very close to animals in that sense, but I do eat meat.
Right. And like, what did you learn, if anything, from like your time being spent with animals, like about their capacities?
You need to care for them. They need to be comfortable and happy as well. I feel like we don't slaughter the animals themselves. We use them more for like pets, I guess you could say in that sense. But yeah, you can tell when someone, like anyone, human, animal, is uncomfortable or stressed out or anxious in the situation. So yeah.
Why does their suffering matter to you?
Because they're creatures, they have souls, they're living beings. But yeah, so there is some sort of humanity. You can kind of see in their eyes sometimes as well. Like they understand what's going on around you. If they were like completely clueless, like, I don't know, a goldfish, like memory of like 3 seconds, maybe not. But then you have like dogs and horses, they can see these kind of things and they're like aware.
Like when you look into the eyes of an animal, you can tell that there's something going on in there. There's a being there.
There's something there. It's not just object existing. There we go. Yeah.
When you've seen animals suffering,
Yeah.
or like if we think of one specific instance, maybe I don't know if you can think of one specific instance where you saw an animal suffering. Can you remember how it made you feel?
Yeah, I've seen, because my mom lives in Pakistan, so they have a lot of donkeys there for donkey carts, and they're very like malnourished, and they're carrying like this huge amount of weight on these carts on the pavement. Their feet are like giving way, and I've cried when I've seen that. So
Right.
yeah.
So you've seen donkeys being abused, essentially,
Yeah.
looking very, very like ill
Yes.
and suffering, and that made you cry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure, I cried. That was.
It sounds like you've got quite a lot of empathy for animals.
I like to think so.
Yeah.
For all things.
Yeah. Apart from objects,
Yeah.
I guess.
But yeah. So.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm wondering if your level of empathy would change depending on the species of the animal. So obviously we have a lot of empathy for cats and dogs. I'm wondering if we replace the cat or the dog with a pig or a cow, do you think you would have the same emotional reaction to seeing them suffer?
I feel like I would, just because you know how you would feel in those kind of situations. You can put yourself
Right.
in those feet. Like, how would you feel if you were like separated from your mother and put into like a small room full of a bunch of other people, animals, and you have no idea what's going on, and there's loud noises, there's a lot of like mess, and like just like sanitation and everything is really bad. You're gonna feel some kind of way.
How do you think you would feel in that situation?
I would cry. I would cry. Shamelessly, I would cry, yes. But yeah, no.
Okay. So I'm wondering if you think there's a moral difference between a pig and a dog.
I don't think so. Not to that strong an extent, because I do have this understanding that like household pets, they have more, I won't say intelligence, but more awareness of what's going around them. It's like dogs and stuff, like you have like service animals, they know how you're feeling as well. So there's that bond, especially with dogs and like cats and household pets. You have this bond with the person. You're with that animal the whole time. You've seen that. Like I've had a dog. I've seen him since he was like born. So you
Right.
have that connection with them.
Yeah.
And it's, I guess, for pigs and stuff, like you may not have that same connection, but you still have to understand that they are also creatures and they have some sense of being and feeling as well.
Yeah. With cats and dogs, most of us have experiences where we feel an attachment with
Yeah.
them. Do you think it's possible to have a personal connection with, say a pig if you grew up spending time with
for
them?
sure. There's lots of people who like live on farms, grow up on farms. I have a friend, like she has sheep and pigs and stuff, and she like counts them as her pets, and she loves them, and she'll bottle feed them when they're babies and like take care of them, that kind of stuff. So you can have that connection. I guess it's based on your exposure to the animal and how long you've been with that animal, and if you've seen like if you're part of the caring process, then it also like evokes more empathy towards the animal as well.
Yeah. I think these are all factors like changing how likely we are to like empathize
Yeah.
with them, probably. But do you think in terms of the animal suffering, do you think that the animals we don't have a connection with suffer any less?
No.
So do you think it's morally relevant, like whether we have a personal connection with someone as to whether their pain matters more or less?
I don't think it's morally relevant, but I do think it contributes more to how you feel
Yes.
about the animal in a sense, because you may just see, I don't know, like a stray cat walk past, it's not your pet, you don't know
Yeah.
that cat, you're just like, okay, it's
Yeah.
eating trash, that's a bit sad, but you have like this, you're more disconnected in that sense, but yeah.
I mean, I guess it's the same with humans as
Yeah.
well. I suppose I am more connected I care more about my friends probably than I do about someone on the other side of the world.
Yeah.
Even though like the person who's like starving on the other side of the world really needs my help.
Yeah.
I guess maybe it's kind of like, I mean, it's just my opinion, but maybe it's kind of like a flaw of us.
Oh, for sure. If living in London, especially, no one cares. You could fall in front of a bunch of people. They will walk over you and be like, "Get out my way! I'm in a rush."
Yeah.
So I feel like we're also like so conditioned to be like thinking about ourselves and just those who are close to us that we feel that the other is not as important because we don't have that connection to them and we don't know them.
Yeah.
So we take that separation.
Yeah. And we don't know them. And I guess that's the same with farmed animals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you don't see a farm animal and then you hear like, oh, like someone slaughtered a cow, you're like, well, that's what happens.
It barely feels real, I guess. You don't really imagine
Exactly.
it. Yeah.
I guess also when there's that distance between you, you're not really seeing it as much. Then you also have like this disconnect because you don't. Same with like I guess like people suffering in different countries. You
Yes.
don't really see it, and people don't care because they're like, well, it's not affecting me at home,
Yes.
so I can take a step back and choose to remain ignorant to those situations. So I guess it works the same with animals in that sense. If you can choose to remain ignorant when there is this separation, this distance between you two, you and the animal. Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah.
And I guess if we did see other people in pain on the other side of the world and we really understood that our money could help them, we'd
Yeah.
probably be a lot more likely to donate to charities,
Oh, for
effective
sure.
charities. And like when it comes to like animals on farms, we're probably going to be a lot more motivated to do something about it if we actually like are open to hearing what's happening to them. But it's so easy not to be.
I think also there's this lack of transparency when you have these kind of situations. Like, I highly doubt people who have like these slaughterhouses are telling you, yeah, we lock them up. They're going to be like, no, they're happy, they're free, they're lovely, they're having the best time, and then they die sweetly. When we
Yeah.
know that's not the truth. But also there's lack of transparency makes us feel more comfortable in believing that, okay, then it's fine.
Absolutely. I guess it's kind of what we want to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. We don't want to hear bad things are happening. No one wants to hear bad. People turn off the news because they're like, oh, I don't want to hear about bad stuff because it's going to affect me.
Yes.
I'm going to be sad. So it's easier for a lot of people to feel like, okay, I'm going to take a step back, remain ignorant for this, and let it go. So I don't know what else to say.
No, it's absolutely fine. So it's fine. I'm wondering like how bad you think the current situation is for farmed animals.
Terrible, especially like in like Western countries, especially because you're just so fixated on this mass production and like giving to like restaurants, fast food chains. You're like, okay, no, I just need to get like the burgers down. Like, I don't really care how it gets done. I need to get paid. Especially like from farmers' sides, they're like, okay, whatever it takes to get paid at the end of the day. Because also we also have issues that we need to deal with ourselves. So we're like, okay, well, if this animal is suffering, at least I'm getting paid. I'm gonna have like food in my belly. My kids are gonna have a home.
Yeah.
It's this subjective situation.
And I guess when people are like struggling themselves, it's
Yeah.
kind of very easy to be just very focused on your situation. It's kind of
Exactly.
understandable.
Yeah, sure.
I'm wondering if we imagine that we were to grow up in a culture where we were eating and breeding dogs and cats for food, but we were keeping, say, piglets as pets. Do you think that you would question that, or do you think it would just be like a social norm and like that would just be what we did? We'd just eat dogs and cats.
I think it also depends. Like, I feel like we're just trained in this way to believe that, okay, no, dogs, cats, fish, goldfish, whatever, they're like our pets, they're household, they're trained. And then like a pig, a cow, that's the animal that we are used to. That's what we eat.
Yeah.
So it's easy to make that divide. So if it was the opposite way around, I feel like we wouldn't really question it as much
Yeah.
because that's what's been ingrained.
Right. It's a social norm. And I guess we probably wouldn't see the dogs and cats as individuals like
Yeah.
we do now.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we don't see the cows and the pigs and the chickens.
Yeah.
We just like see as very,
Like,
very
you could
abstract.
have a pet cow and be like, oh, I love Susie, my cow, love her. And then you see a dog, you're like, well, this is dinner.
Yeah. Yeah.
It depends. I guess it also depends where you're from as well, because you have some places in the world where they'll eat anything. They don't really care. They're like, it's for survival or it's just what's accessible at the time. So it's very dependent, I guess, on the situation and where you are and what you've grown up learning as well.
Yeah. But like we're very, I guess, easily influenced by culture.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Like if you look in India, cows are super like sacred. Like you're not even allowed to honk at a cow when you're in India because they're
Right.
like, this is like holy
you can do
sacred.
that to humans.
Yeah, you can do that to humans, but you can't do it to cows. So like if you compare there to like here you saw a cow in the street, people would be like honking, people would be like, get the hell out the way.
Yeah.
So it's really dependent on your culture and like what you've grown up learning.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So if we imagine that, say, in 100 years' time, we're all eating vegan diets,
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you would see this as moral progress.
I guess so. I'm not opposed to eating a vegan diet, especially some stuff now like the Beyond things
Right.
and the Impossibles. They
Yeah.
taste the same. Like I can't tell the difference. Some hardcore meat eaters would be like, yes, there's a difference.
Yeah.
But honestly, if we're taking that step away and we're doing something good in that process, why not? And no one's getting hurt in that process as well. So like then it's a win-win for everyone.
Right. Do you think it would be a better world if we were to shut down factory farms and slaughterhouses?
Sure. Like not only for the animals, but also like environmentally, also socially maybe, because also it creates jobs for some people. So we have that like divide in figuring out, okay, if we close down all these factories and farms and stuff,
Need an alternative.
we need an alternative for jobs for people, because
Sure.
that's what they're surviving on. That's how they make the ends meet, whatever. So
Yeah.
you have to think about that as well. But I feel like if we do move to that process, it is mainly more beneficial than there's more wins than losses in that
Right.
situation.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. Okay, so on a scale of 0 to 10,
Yes.
with 0 being that you think our current consumption of animal products is perfectly fine, and you don't want to see us move towards like a vegan world, and 10 being that you think that we absolutely need to go fully vegan as a society in the future, and you yourself would like to take steps to get there. Where would you put yourself on that scale?
7.5, 8-ish, just because I lost my train of thought.
Don't worry about it. Yeah, 7.5, 8-ish, quite high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like also because we can take a step away from eating meat and all these kind of things, and it's not going to really detriment us in any way. Like health-wise, we'll be fine. Environment-wise, we'll be fine. Animal-wise, we'll be fine. Also, because we have so much waste as well as it is. So when you have like all this slaughter and stuff, half of the stuff the animals that are being slaughtered are just going back in the bin because there's so much waste. So is it really worth it at the end of the day? You have to ask yourself that as well. So,
Yeah.
Is it?
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. I'd love to get your email address. I'd like to follow up like a few months later.
Sure.
If you just put it there, that'd be great. But that was really great. Thank you. You made so many interesting points. Like seriously, yeah. Like a lot of people I talk to just generally in life just
Yeah.
kind of say things,
Okay.
and I feel like you were saying things with substance. So thank you. Thank you for being honest.